Okay, let's talk about the grand final of the North American League finals and then also the North American League relegation match. And really quickly, before I get into those, let me just talk about this really quickly. Ubisoft put out an anti-cheat update, or well, they're updating us on their anti-cheat procedures, not necessarily an update to the anti-cheat itself. And I don't really want to read all this because it's really lengthy. As you can see here, they put out a lot of stats and talk about what they're doing. And I suppose the one thing that I thought was important to mention, they said that every month and a half that they should be putting out an update, or again, updating us on what the status of the thing is. So, I mean, that's good to hear. This is like priority number one. And hopefully this is not just talk, and in fact, this resolves some of the issues that most of the players in the game, especially at the highest level, have been having with the game. And okay, let's go to the NAL stuff now. So, okay, let's talk about the grand final of the finals first. Of course, we saw the matches yesterday, or, well, the day before this game. On Saturday, we saw the match between Dark Zero and Space Station, which Dark Zero won, and then we saw the match between Oxygen and Sonics, which Sonics won. So, of course, that makes the grand final Sonics against Dark Zero. And as you probably know, the Sonics took it. They won 2-0, and of course it was fairly close. We had a 7-5, so a max regulation game, and then an 8-7, so a max overtime game. Didn't see Coastline. And yeah, I mean, I predicted them, so I suppose I got half of my predictions right or something for the events, for the semifinals and the final and the relegation match, which I mean is not amazing. Technically, I guess I got less than that if you count the predictions I made before we knew who made it to the finals, but you know, I made this prediction after we actually knew who was playing this match. So yeah, not too terribly much to say about it. I'll look up the stats in a second, and of course I don't have too much to say about it because I talked about it a decent bit yesterday, what the storyline was going into it and all of this sort of thing. And I suppose I only started the tale of the Sonics back in like the US division when they were getting 5th place repeatedly and whatnot, and just outside the top 4. But their story really goes back further than that. They made it into Pro League from Challenger League, and that was a much different roster, but Super was still on the roster. And then they got relegated, and then like a season later, the US division formed, and they got re-invited, and then that sort of picks up where I was telling the tale. So yeah, definitely had their rise, and not too many ups early on, but they have reached a very great high, being the winners of the 2021 season. And I mean, once again, depending on what metric you are using, they aren't 100% the best team or whatever. If you know, Space Station was definitely the most dominant, especially in stage 2 and 3, if you tally up all the points, if you count international competition. But Sonics were the most consistent within the region, and they won the finals. I mean, they never fell out of top 4. They got to play at the majors, even if they didn't do well at the major, and then, well, they won this, so this definitely proves something. So hopefully this bodes well for them and for Dark Zeros as well at the 6th Invitational, because of course both these teams sort of struggled with Sweden. We'll have to see. And maybe this is a little bit hopeful for North America, because the two teams that you probably would expect to do better in international competition already out of these 4 teams would be Oxygen and Space Station, and they fell in the first round. So I mean, maybe this is good in that we are not putting all our eggs in one basket, but maybe because of just the lower general level of competition in North America as opposed to Latin America, maybe everyone will fail, or maybe everyone will put up decent results. Maybe a North American team can take it down. We'll have to see. It seems unlikely based on how ridiculously good LATAM has been, but you know, we can be hopeful. And I guess let's look at the what was going on in the relegation match really quickly before I look at the stats. Okay, so I mean, once again, it was Parabellum versus Xset, and yeah, I mean, I predicted Xset, but it was sort of contingent on the fact that MBK improved from how he was playing in Stage 3, and that just wasn't the case, unfortunately. Xset lost 3-0, but it was an overtime game, followed by a max regulation game, followed by a max overtime game. So in each game, each map, I suppose, Xset was close to winning, and I mean, you know, 3-0, but a close 3-0, as close as a 3-0 can be just about. And it's a bit of a heartbreaker for some of the players for the org. A lot of people are still speculating that Xset will fill that 10th team spot in the NAL, but probably fielding a different team, or maybe a partially different team, maybe Broad, Razor, whoever will stick around. We'll have to see. Okay, so let's look at the stats. And before I forget, I'm just going to mention now that, I mean, you'll see MBK, his stats were awful. He was playing terribly. He did okay in the last map. I think he went like even or maybe like slightly negative at the end, but he was like 10-10 towards the end of the game. And I mean, a lot of people are just giving him shit. And yeah, I mean, he played badly and he just got wrecked and stuff. And maybe had time to improve, and maybe he was improved, and this just happened to be a bad day. Of course, it's just one match. It is the best 3 out of 5, so it is barely representative of your skill, but it is just one match for you to lose your job or not. And I mean, you know, people are just going too hard on the guy. It's just it was funny for a while, but now people are just being weirdos. I mean, it's really unnecessary. Okay, so let's look at the stats, right? So I guess we'll look at the finals first. So the story of the thing really is Grixer. He was named the MVP of the event, and you know, he was very deserving of it. He was the top in 4 different categories, and I suppose he's technically tied with Kansan on the top of this one, but the uncontested top on rating, KD, and clutches, and then on top for entry. And then he was 3rd best on cost, just below Hyper and Pambazoo. And then he's not on plants, but still, getting up here on 5 of these 6 categories is extremely impressive. And we'll look at the full stats here, and it just goes to show you how much better he was than like everybody else. Like, look at it's a pretty wide gap, 0.07 between him and Pambazoo, but then Pambazoo to the next player is a 0.1 gap. So if you're ignoring Pambazoo, it's a 0.17 rating gap between Grixer and the rest. Like, that's just massive. He was just so much better than everyone else he played against, which is insane. I mean, plus 22 on KD, he was over a 1.5 kill death ratio, almost a 2.0 entry KD. Cost very high, you know, close to a 1 KPR, really high survival rate, maybe the highest. Yeah, it looks like the highest survival rate of anybody, the most clutches, just absolutely insane. And I mean, he went big. We'll have to see if he goes big in international competition at the 6 Invitational, but he certainly went big here. And then here is just the individual match stats from the grand final. So once again, Grixer just head and shoulders above everyone else. Nobody else on his team went positive on rating. He just did it. Like nobody else could. Pambazoo was excellent in the event. Couldn't get his team the win, but he looks very good. Definitely improved. He always looked like a good player, but a little bit shaky in some regards, and now he just looks super solid. And even main operator played on attack here, Thermite, and he's still putting up these stats. Very impressive. Okay, and I suppose not too much to talk about here. The 3 players are just sort of in the middle, and then Super down here playing the Smoke and the Thermite, and then Eclipse down here at similar stats playing the other SAS operator and another hard breach operator. Eclipse really fell off. He was like the best player on his team statistically, I think, in the first day, and then he's the worst on his team by far. So very unfortunate. So yeah, I think a pretty bright future for several teams in the NAL, and then I guess we'll move on to the final stats. Xset versus Parabellum. So Spirits and Melted went off. Eska is, usually viewed as a very excellent player, and he just put up kind of a mediocre performance here, but I mean, whatever, it's a 3-0. And yeah, here it is, MVK, 15 and 33. He was like 0 and 12 or something on the first map, something terrible. And I think 10 or 11 or something of his kills came on just the 3rd map, so he had like 4 or 5 kills or something between 2 maps for the first 2. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. I would have liked to seen Xset at least put up a better performance, like take it to map 4 or 5, and they nearly did because, of course, they were close to winning any of these maps. But it will be Parabellum in the NAL, and then also, maybe Xset will be back, as I was saying before. So yeah, not too much else to say about it. I guess that covers the thing. I'm sort of happy to see Parabellum in. I think they were a good team, they were a good org, and I'm excited to see a new team in the league, if nothing else. And I mean, I'm hopeful that some of the Xset guys can continue on their competitive Siege journey, that this doesn't kill the thing for them. We'll have to see. And yeah, I think that pretty well does it. Let me mention, I'm not going to be uploading any Siege videos probably for like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to be not able to access my stuff. I'm just going to be gone. I don't know, I'm saying it weirdly. I'm going to be out of town for a couple weeks, so I do have some like scheduled videos of non-Siege stuff. So I mean, if you want to watch this, it's just me playing games with my friends. Some of them are kind of funny, and then maybe I might have some Siege related stuff, but nothing like where I talk over it. It'll just be like clip compilations or something. So right, yeah, that's gonna do it. And so how does that rhyme thing go? It's like if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any comments, leave them below. And okay, I'll catch you in the next video.